most ridiculous rule your school ever had. When I was in 11th grade, our school introduced a new rule that you couldn't call 911 unless an administrator approved it. It came after a freshman had a seizure, and another student panicked and called for an ambulance. The school got billed a few grand because the student's family couldn't pay. So the principal's genius solution? Ban students from calling emergency services without permission. He announced it at a full school assembly, warning that anyone who broke the rule would be suspended on the spot. Most of us thought it was ridiculous, but didn't think we'd ever have to deal with it. Until a few months later, during track practice. My best friend Olivia was diabetic, and on that day, something went horribly wrong. We were running laps when she suddenly collapsed on the field. Her skin was pale, and she was barely conscious. I froze for a second, wanting to call for help, but then I remembered that stupid policy. The coach was across the field with another group. I sprinted to the nurse's office, but it was locked. The front desk told me she was in a meeting and handed me a form, to fill out while Olivia lay on the field barely breathing. My hands were shaking as I tried to write down what was happening, and every second felt like it was making things worse. By the time someone finally tracked down the nurse, Olivia's lips had turned blue. She was completely unresponsive. The nurse panicked and tried to call the principal for ambulance permission, but of course, he wasn't in the building. He was off at some district meeting. They were calling different phones, trying to reach someone, anyone, to give the okay. I couldn't stand there anymore. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. The ambulance showed up in 5 minutes. The paramedics took one look at her and said that if they'd arrived any later, she might have had permanent brain damage. She ended up spending 3 days in the ICU. The next morning, I was called into the principal's office and handed a suspension slip, 3 days for violating emergency protocol. I tried to explain everything, but he didn't want to hear it. Rules are rules, he told me. What he didn't expect was Olivia's dad showing up that afternoon. He was a lawyer, and furious. He'd spent the night going over state law, and told the school he'd sue every administrator personally for negligence if they went through with my punishment. Word spread fast. Local news picked up the story. Parents started flooding the district with complaints. The school board called an emergency meeting. The principal tried justifying the rule by rambling about costs and liability. But Olivia's dad played the 911 recording, my voice shaking as I begged for help, explaining Olivia's condition. The room fell completely silent. The next day, the superintendent suspended the principal and threw out the policy entirely. A full audit revealed the principal had been quietly cutting corners on safety to keep expenses down, skipping maintenance on fire alarms, ignoring broken security cameras. All of it came out. Olivia returned to school 2 weeks later. The moment she saw me, she ran up and hugged me in front of everyone. Her dad still filed the lawsuit, not to get money, but to force the district to update their emergency response plans. And it worked. From then on, all staff had to be trained in handling medical crises, and students were allowed to call 911 in life-threatening situations. No permission needed.